So, hi everyone, welcome. I can see people joining in, so maybe I'll give it a minute more and then we can begin. For those who've joined, could you just say hi and where you're from? That would be great. And so this time round, we'd like to start with a poll. So maybe we'll first have the poll on. Please look at the polls tab on your right. Yeah.
And we're just taking the temperature here and substitute January for your whatever month of the year they come out. But most people are thinking or doing it now, so it's appropriate.
Okay, then I think I'll just get with my intro. So, hey everyone, I'm Jyotsna with Everstage, and I'm excited to be hosting what I will know is a very timely and practical conversation today. And welcome to Building Trust After Rollout, How to Stabilize Your Comp Plan in January. So before we get started, very quickly on us, Everstage is a unified agentic platform for incentive compensation and sales performance management. Built for more than revenue teams, Everstage is trusted by public companies and enterprises worldwide, including Paychex, Diligent, Trimble, and Notion. So if you're currently struggling with post-rollout issues, manual commission calculations, or working with outdated software that's not meeting your needs, we'd love to help. Simply click the See Everstage in Action button at the top of your screen, and one of our product experts will reach out to you. So today we brought together two leaders who understand the emotional and operational reality of January pay cycles. So over the next 45 minutes, we're going to explore why the trust gap forms, what high trust rollouts do differently, and give you a 30-day framework to stabilize credibility during your first pay cycle. So before I introduce our speakers, I have another poll which I'm going to open right now. So we'll look at both of their results like in a bit. So first we have Angelina Chiesa. She is the sales and incentives manager at Chamberlain Group. Angelina manages compensation programs and has navigated the challenges of rolling out new plans and ensuring reps trust the system from day one. She brings that real world practitioner perspective on what it takes to maintain trust when things get messy. Angelina, welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jose. He's the VP of GTM Excellence here at Everstage. And Jose focuses on turning incentive compensation into a true revenue engine. And before joining us, he was the VP of Commercial Operations at Diligent, where he led large-scale compensation and tooling transformations. So Jose brings that strategic operations perspective that's essential for building trust at scale. Great to have you here as well, Jose.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the intro, Joe.
So lastly, you can note that you can put your questions in the Q&A tab, and Angelina or Jose will cover them as and when needed. We also have a designated 10 minutes for Q&A today. So from here, it's over to you, Angelina and Jose.
Wonderful. If we have those poll results, I am very personally curious as we are a fiscal January rollout. What is everyone's panic level? So would love to be able to see those results. Personally, go ahead.
No, yes, I'll share the first one so we can talk about it.
Yeah, I know for me, I am at a mildly concerned. You might have found something different on a different day. But looks like the majority of us are mildly concerned, very excited to see that. and hopefully for those in the send help category, you're in the right place. That is exactly what we're trying to do today. So, and for those of you in Zen mode, amazing. Yes. So thank you guys for sharing that. Thank you for taking time to just discuss this with us today. We know that everything is really busy, and would love to be able to see what are other people's fiscal year. Unless, Jose, do you have anything you want to share about this?
No, I'm happily surprised that the no inbox is on fire yet. And yeah, mildly concerned is pretty healthy. Send mode is ideal, of course, but yeah, mildly concerned is a good place to be at this point. So looking good.
Awesome. So I will share the results of the fiscal year.
Okay, so yeah, 2/3 of us are in this, and it looks like the rest third are shortly coming up. So also still well timed. So hopefully all of you guys have your plan design done and are working on rollouts. I know last year as a company, we still did not have plan design until early March for a 1/1 rollout. So it seems like all of us are in a pretty good spot with that. Yeah, so we could probably launch into the slides. So January is when all of our hard work pays off. We've been working with all of our sales leaders and, finance and comp and HR to make sure that we are ready for 1/1, assuming that January is your date again. And, I love the note at the top. This is when it stops being theoretical and we really go live with everything. Hopefully your rollouts have or are, on track to get that plan design and the system that you are using live and in the reps' hands. So that when that first pay cycle hits, and even honestly, I think kind of interim of those two, when your reps are just looking at their data before they even finalize a pay cycle, as they are looking at that data, they are understanding and they are able to see the rollout in effect. This is just kind of a nice cycle that we're going to keep going through. So you launch the information, you share the data. The reps are continually looking at the data in the system, as well as their managers, as well as your executives and other people. And then as they see things, we're going to talk about how communication goes and how to build that trust. And so the reps are looking at things, building trust that they understand the plan, and that they know the plan and they believe the data in the plan as well. And then finally, as we have problems, we fix things and we make sure that we are communicating what's going on, what the successes are, what the challenges are, up, down, and around. So within your SIP committees, within your leaders, down to the reps and all of the other team members, making sure that everybody is on the same page of how we're moving forward. And this is really critical that we do this all year long, but really January is when you're reinforcing this. These are steps that we're going to talk about to build trust, to make sure that your rollout is able to be successful. So if this kind of first iteration of this cycle doesn't go well, it's really hard and expensive, as noted here, to get this back on track. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to use all of these different pieces to our advantage in January to make sure the rest of the year can be really successful.
Totally.
I know.
One thing to add here is that also January, for most of us that you've gone through planning, you've gone through the plan design, can be a little bit exhausting. It feels like putting the plans out is the finish line, and it kind of is, but it also kind of really, really isn't. So recognizing that there's a lot of stuff to be done and normalizing the fact that it's not going to be necessarily completely smooth sailing. It never is. There's always something out there that we just need to deal with that and adjust it. It's just part of being in the right mind frame to not be on panic mode later on.
Absolutely. I always like to think, I'm going to go on vacation after I roll something out, and not just yet.
Not right away.
So really, like, as sales investment comp professionals, our job is not just to get the design into the reps' hands. It's not just to be like, okay, we're done, making sure that things are fair, that we're paying accurately. Really, our job is to motivate, incentivize those sellers, make sure that managers and your executives have the information that they need so that they understand what are they paying for. And the reps know that they're getting paid for the work that they're doing. And so during the rollout is the perfect time to start making sure everybody is knowing where we're marching towards next year and everybody understands all of the different details. And so you can see in the green section questions that reps may be asking themselves. And hopefully you're asking, these questions to yourselves as well as like, hey, is this pay correct? How does this year differ from last year? Am I actually set up for success? Am I able to be, earn just as much money or more than I did last year? Is everything accurate? And is my, territory, are my credits getting mapped properly? If reps are spending time thinking about those, they're not spending time selling. And so, as investment professionals, we want to make sure that they are spending their time selling and not worrying about their plan. So we're going to talk about how to continue to build that trust so they can spend their time most effectively.
Yeah, and by the way, they're going to be thinking that it's very natural. Right? It's not that they shouldn't, they will, and it's just a matter of how we handle it, that there's good answers for everything, that we can address things, and that we can be proactive with the communication. So it's a very natural feeling for people to want to understand, are they getting paid? Is their livelihood we're talking about? So it's not weird or wrong or bad behavior to be questioning everything. You would expect them to be questioning everything. It's just a matter of how prepared are you to really address those things and get the clarity that people need.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of take a step back and think about what are people thinking to be able to most effectively manage the program through the rollout and onwards. So from there, we'll turn it over to Jose to talk about trust.
All right. Thanks, Angie. So yeah, trust dip. This is really the core theme of today's webinar. It's something that ideally would never happen. It's likely that it will in some cases. So just why it happens and recognizing the low cost of trust. So first thing to note is that this trust dip can happen for multiple reasons. Right? I have on the left a bunch of reasons why it could happen. The bad news here is that we don't always get to know what the reason is when this trust gap first shows up, right? It's just a feeling, it's conversations in the hallways, and you might not know right away what is the root cause of this, if it even is justified or not. So it's part of our job to, when the minute this starts happening, really just try to diagnose, well, why is this the case and what can we do about it? I just imagine that you can't guarantee that there's never going to be a trust dip, right? So it's more about kind of expecting it, anticipating, prepare for it, and when it happens, investigate the situation and resolve it as quickly as you can. And this is a bad time for letting egos get involved. There's many times that things need to be corrected, and that's fine. That's part of the cycle. But if we're able to tackle this ourselves and with our peers and our co-leaders in a way that's more proactive and just looking at the challenge and addressing it, that's a lot. It goes a long way. And again, how do you solve this trust? That will be very different depending on what's causing it. But whatever the cause is, solving it quickly and really over communicating what happened is very important. Resist the urge to sweep things under the rug or whatever analogy you want to use. If something needs to be addressed, it's better to do it clearly, quickly, communicate it. And again, as noted before, losing trust is very expensive. Even if it doesn't show up in any dashboard as a thing, it can fester, sort of propagate, mutate into other things. And if you don't address it, it can be a real culture killer. So that's why we put so much emphasis on the trust thing. It's really a result of many other things and behaviors and prep you've done, but it's how issues manifest themselves, and it can be super hard to address. Last point here is part of the reasons why low trust is so costly is that you can have attrition as a result of this. And it's often the best people that are going to be the ones to leave, and even if they're not the ones that are complaining the loudest, right? Once you lose trust, high performers are very likely to start looking at options. So super critical to avoid this trap.
So, Jose, we've got a question.
Mhm.
So imagine that you're building the strategy for next year, and you know that some people may be paid less. You know that this is going to, erode trust. What types of things would you do to get ahead of that?
Yeah. So again, people will recognize this and they'll find out if they're going to be paid less, right? So I think if you're designing a plan that's worth its salt, there really should be some scenarios or some cases where people can make the same they were making before, or in some cases more. So I would highlight not the fact that you're going to be paid less, but rather what are the conditions in which you can get compensated as much as or more than last year, right? So your plan should really include some of that. So typically there's a combination of different behaviors, different elements you need to be selling, and that is something that you should incent. And if that's not at all the case, that's a harder conversation, but it has to probably do with the reasons for that. And is the company in a bad spot? Was last year's plan unrealistic, and did we overpay everyone? But again, transparency and treating people as adults will pay off here. But Angie, you definitely weigh in on this one. Have
Yeah.
you this?
In the yeah, we've had a situation like this, and getting out in front of it, like you said, was so critical. Often we do rollouts with larger groups, and so in this case, we did a rollout with a much smaller group so that we could kind of address the why. In our case, it was the role was changing a bit, and so we weren't able to pay as much as we were previously. But whatever it is, make sure you and your leadership are aligned on the messaging. It's number one, it's great that you know all of this ahead of time, so it's not a surprise mid-year when people are like, hey, I'm making less. But then from there, really like driving a clear message and checking in once you roll it out. Maybe there are other points or other things that may come up, and just making sure to have that line of communication open, especially in these sticky situations.
Yeah, well said. And I think it weaves into the next point. It's just, what does a high trust, like we talked about, why is trust important, the cost of trust, why can you lose trust in the process? But what would a high trust rollout look like, right? So again, it's not about having the perfect rollout, zero mistakes. It's really more about the entire system. It's just, how do you address the whole thing? And first, it starts with reps need to understand how they're getting paid, and again, ideally, why. And there's nuances here, but the plan is changing dramatically. Why are we doing that? How does this support the overall go-to-market strategy? Plans are not built in isolation, and people want to know, and I think they deserve to know. Again, they're adults; they should know what we're trying to do. It also important not only to reps understand how they are getting paid, but how are other teams contributing to the effort, especially in tough situations. Maybe if a particular team is making less money, you can say, well, remember those layoffs we had to do last year? This is how we stop from having to do it again. So bring it back to the overall strategy. And it's not about nickel and diming reps. It's about having an overall program that works for the company, and bringing in the efforts of other teams. You need the help of leaders. Leaders need to help you resolve issues quickly. And this is kind of obvious to say. It's not necessarily super easy in practice, because it means leaders need to have all the information you have and really be experts in the plan, and be ready with the knowledge to help address issues. And they also have to be willing to do it and have that buy-in and be ready to stand up in front of their team and back you up and back the go-to-market team and the company. And again, good leaders will do it, but it's not something you should just assume anyone will do. So spend the time making sure that the leaders know their stuff, and that they're actually going to be helping you and be an ally in this situation, which again, most of them will, but just don't assume it would happen. Transparent statements, of course, this goes a long way, especially if there are new elements to the plan, that understanding of how you're getting paid. And here's where modern systems like Everstage go a long way towards really making it super clear how the calculation happens, and you don't need a PhD in RevOps to understand it. Ideally, the plan is not that complicated anyways, but having that assurance that the payment is handled correctly, that is a big deal. And when all of these things happen, then adoption will happen naturally. And really important here is at its own pace. Like, it's a process. You can't really rush this. And it takes time for humans to absorb the information, for things to be worn out. So resist the urge to just rush through this thing. Just acknowledge it's a process. It'll take time. And capping this up, yeah, trust will not remove the questions. It'll remove suspicion and just ensure that people understand we're on this together. Angie, any color commentary on this? Does it resonate?
The leader aspect is something that, like, early on in my career, I underestimated. And so now we do rollouts with the leaders in advance of the teams so that they hear the same messaging, and we want to use the same words that from our incentive team that the leaders are using in their team meetings. And so that has really helped us to get their buy-in so that, they know the message ahead of time. It's not just, hey, we built a plan, but they know all of the slides that we've done and the messaging. And so that's been a really huge help, and can't be reiterated enough. Getting those leaders buy-in has been huge for us.
Yeah, totally. I've had just examples of new sales leaders that are really nice people. They want to do everything right. They show up to the meeting. They understand it. They get behind. But the minute someone on their team challenges it, then they go back to their default self, which is fighting for the team. And then they become exactly what they shouldn't be, right? Yep. And that's just, it's not productive. And if you can avoid that happening, it's a big deal. So that's what high trust rollouts look like, and it goes a long way. We're having a new question come in here. Let me just read it out loud. We'll go live here. You're planning on a change which drives a strategy where in some cases folks would pay less. Oh, so that's the same one. Who rolls the plans to the front line? Sales, comp, or team, or leaders? That's a really good question. And I think we'll go into that in detail. And do you want to pencil that in for later, or you want to address it now?
We can. Let's actually address it now, because we'll talk about. But let's do it now. I know for us as a team, it's a combination. We don't, as a sales comp team, make the plan without sales and many other people's involvements. For us, the sales comp leads the slides design, leads the plan rollout, but sales is there reiterating the message and has helped hone and craft that message long before we as a sales comp team ever deliver it. So I would say very much partnership, but in the meetings, comp owns it with sales support. I don't know. How about you, Jose?
That's exactly right. My experience. Yeah, in very rare cases, like in remote teams with very mature leaders on the sales side, they can do that delivery themselves. But it's always better to do it in concert. You need to show the face. Ops is owning this, but leadership needs to be there as well as part of the team. So it's an important combo that the team will feel that the support is there if they're hearing it from the company and also their leader. All right. So building up on this trust concept, I just wanted to expand it a little bit more. I know we've been talking about motivation, about rollout plans, and that's the primary lens that we're talking about trust now. But we've developed this model at Everstage about just the whole idea of sales rep motivation is built in trust, and it's built on 3 different pillars that are all critical and build on each other for this to happen. So we read this sort of bottom to top, just the analogy of the column would topple over if you don't have all the elements from the base, right? So starting with fairness. So you can't have trust if people don't understand that the plans are fair and that they are not only know they're fair, but also the perception of fairness is as important as them actually being mathematically right. So you need to work on both sides. And this goes beyond the plan. It's all about the setting up for success, your territories, your quotas, your capacity. We spent a lot of time building the plan, making sure that is right, but communicating that, also bringing the sellers along on the ride with that, and communicating that and making sure that it actually works. Very important that if there's any assumptions that are driving this planning, we should make them explicit. If we think we're going to get more out of certain territory this year than we did before, well, why do we think that? Do we have more? Are we going to get more leads? Is our product coming ahead? Is this killer feature we've been waiting for that'll allow us to do our win rate? Just things that are building those assumptions that drive the plan numbers should be communicated. Sales needs to understand that to some degree. And that is what builds that trust that, well, I'm starting with a place where success is possible. So once you have that baseline of saying, I can see how this is no one's trying to steal from me, basically, then the trust grows as commitments are kept. And that sounds super easy, like table stakes, but again, it's harder than it seems. You want to make sure that your payouts are accurate, that your earnings are broken down clearly, that there's an inquiry process that works. And for this one, again, your ICM system is a big help, or should be a big help, to making sure that that happens. Nothing worse than starting the year all excited about the plan. You've communicated, the sellers are excited to get going, and then the first statement comes out and it's wrong. It's not what they expected. They don't understand it. That can really demolish that trust at that level. And then once you have a baseline of trust that people understand this is the right thing, that you're going to be keeping your promises because you are able to and you want to, then you can do that later stage that really is what drives motivation, is that forward-looking motivation. Reps are typically interested in making a good living. I think that oversimplification of the coin-operated sales rep is not something I like, and it's not really true. But yeah, people want to do well, and they want to know that they can do well. And many of them spend time planning, especially, again, the better sellers are maybe looking very early on, not just in scraping by and getting their number, but how do they overachieve? What are the conditions that they can do? So having an ability for them to do that is a really important piece at that point that can build on trust. So again, using tools like Everstage's Crystal Ball, others, it's just very important to have that. But it's the last stage. You don't get that unless you have proven your base of trust before.
And I like to think about this as like it's a continual cycle. You know, we're doing this year over year. We're working with many of the same sellers, many of the same teams. And so, you know, when you go into a new plan, hopefully you are bringing some trust with you so that you are starting off on an even better foot. And then you continue to build on with all of these pieces and know that all of the work you're doing to put in all of these different steps to build trust is going to continue and will roll over year as we continue through this process. So it's effort and time really well spent to make sure that things can be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. It's a recurring cycle. So we have an opportunity every time to get better at this. And if you think about it as a flywheel model, that trust you built last year helps you next year, and you're building a bank of goodwill that helps you navigate those sticky points. All right, so we've talked about the problem in theory, what could work, things to avoid. But we've asked Angie to help us just walk through her model, her framework of how she's seeing this, and how can you take this into practice and actually land these concepts in the real world. So handing it over to Angie here to cover this framework, and we'll explore each one of these elements.
Wonderful. So we're calling this the 3 elements of post-rollout trust. And so we're going to cover accuracy, transparency, and communication. And accuracy. This is very clearly, it is non-negotiable. Like, we must pay the sellers what they are owed and on time. And this is a huge part of our job. we have done tons of testing in the background long before things are ever rolled out. And I don't know about you all, but this is where I start building trust as we will involve our sellers in the in the testing. Often we will do a build out, we'll do our internal testing with the comp team and finance and others. But then we do involve our sellers, and they know it's in a test mode, but that helps them kind of preview the system. We're going to hear what questions people are already having and helps us really ensure that accuracy. We also keep a list of unique situations. So, hey, things that we want to think about as we're building out the plan every year. What are those things that we want to test? So, hey, someone starting mid-year, plan changing, someone moving from plan A to plan B. There are a lot of different things that can happen. So as you see them throughout the year, keep a list of those. That way you have them as you are starting to roll out next year with all of those different examples of things that you can test. And there's always going to be problems. Like, we would love to be perfect, but there are a lot of moving pieces. And so set up as many different ways that you can to be able to catch those problems. So that you can maintain that accuracy as much as possible. In there, it says early accuracy prevents late stage damage, and making sure that we're keeping a very close eye on this. One of the things that we do is we create a lot of reports for different outliers, and that helps us monitor the accuracy long before a seller may raise something.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Just get ahead of the curve and don't wait for the statements to come out for anything to be found out there. Next element here, I'll cover it just briefly. It's transparency. We've talked about it. Again, it's pretty self-evident. So effective transparency just includes explaining the changes clearly, side by side, old versus new, audit trails, and real-time visibility into crediting. The only thing I would add here on top of the definition of a transparency is two pieces of advice. Anyway, one is, I call it just don't run away from the monster. If something is out there, so just bring a flashlight, point the light to it, and people are going to find things. Don't imagine they're not going to do it. Address it head first. Like, if it's going to happen, just if it's ugly, if it's a hard conversation, just run towards it. Take care of it. It's a big help, and it'll help you along the way. Second piece is that it's never been easier to model things as it is now with all the AIs and the models and the Vive coding. So if your ICS system doesn't include a way to test changes side by side and before and after, and by the way, it really should, but if it doesn't, make sure you put some work into doing some of that as you're managing change, because if you don't do it, someone else will. And you want to know what's coming out to have those maybe tough conversations. It's a good segue to communication. Oops. Here.
So communication, it would be great if the rollout was the end of communication for the year. We all sit back, enjoy all of our hard work, but that's just not what it is. We have all done the work ahead of time to make sure that we are confident with the story we're rolling out. We know the questions we may get, and we're setting those expectations during the rollout of what to expect. One of the things that we always, set the expectation of the sellers is like, hey, we've done our best to get this out there, but we need you all to be monitoring your results. We provide them daily through Everstage. And so that is one of the expectations that we set of them, that they're watching them and, reporting back to us. But then it becomes our challenge is to look at that monster, as Jose called it, and make sure that we're dealing with it. Because if there's one bubbling up, there are probably many more right underneath the surface. And so the sooner that you deal with the small thing, you don't allow it to be large, and you get ahead of things. So really, you've asked for the communication back, make sure that you're doing something with it. And then this ongoing, making sure that as you're noticing small things, you don't need everyone pinging you about the same problem. Be transparent. Hey, we've noticed this, problem in our plan. we are on top of it. I know we are changing a data set for one of the teams. And so I anticipate some problems. So during the rollout, I said, hey, we may have some problems with this. We've been testing, but take a look at it. Let me know. And if we notice a problem, I'm going to communicate to their leader or probably to the whole team. Hey, we've noticed this thing. Thank you guys for raising it. Here's our next steps. And often we are the face of the plan. We are not always the problem behind the plan, but we are the face of it. That's what we get paid to do. And so we have to be willing to accept those challenges and then work to solve them, and then keep that communication going forward.
Totally. All right. So we're going to do just as a quick recap of what great generic communication looks like. And then we're going to jump into, again, we said this takes time. It's a process. So just maybe breaking down some of those activities, but summarizing what high trust teams consistently provide: living FAQ document, clear escalation paths, office hours with competent RevOps leaders, be accessible, super, super important, regular updates during first pay cycle. And again, we're not going for perfection, reassurance, and that is what we're looking for. So we have one more poll to show, and then we're going to jump into the process. So let's have that poll. I think it's out now. Yeah, so where do most post-rollout issues come from you? So it's a data crediting, plan or rule misunderstandings, system configuration, communications, or all of the above. Hopefully not all of the above, but hey, if it's all of the above, go for it.
I know for me, it's sometimes different every year, or different teams have different things. So
yeah, so think about your most recent one. Yeah, just answer on that basis. I'm going to submit one. I don't know if we're supposed to as host, but
I did as well. So do we have critical mass and we can launch the results?
Okay, we're closing the poll soon.
Okay.
All right, so where do we see those? They're going to come up on the screen?
Yep.
Oh, sure. Here it is.
Okay. So a little bit of everything out there.
Yeah, all of the above. There you go. So plan rule misunderstandings, that seems to be the leader. That was my vote. But yeah, it can be everything. And it really depends on a bunch of things: state of maturity of your program, of your tool, of your company, what happens, what's going on during the year. But yeah, it's not an easy gig we have. So sometimes things go wrong. All right. So thanks for that. Let's jump into the next section and talk about that process.
So rollout has happened. We are calling these week ones, but you use these as you need. It's just a framework to think about as you've done a rollout. What are the next steps that you could be doing to make sure that you are staying ahead and making sure that you're building trust? So often we just rolled out our plans a week ago. And so this is what I've been kind of working on this week is, you roll it out, you do the best you can to, ask questions during it, make sure it's as easy for the reps to understand, but there's always, challenges. One of the things that we do is we make sure to provide them immediately the slides of the rollout, as well as the rollout video that we recorded, so they can go back and look at things. But there's going to be times when they just don't understand pieces, and that will build anxiety. So there are a bunch of different things that you can do. And how we have done this is we identify different parts of the plan, and then we hold deep dives within each of those different pieces. So you could call them kickoff sessions, but make sure that you are, focusing on the areas that you're hearing are problematic, or just kind of assume may be problematic. You are, providing examples. You're making sure that people have that tool, that they can go and look at results. They can go play around with things. They can, see how their results are year over year. And hopefully they start to understand the plan. And my goal after week 1 is that if you ask someone, they could give you an elevator pitch of the plan. Like, okay, hey, I'm generally measured on these things. Here's how I can be successful. I need to manage my pricing, and I need to increase volume. And with that, I'm going to see this increase, and I have this outperformance lever as well. So can they do that 20-second, overview of the plan, so that they kind of understand what's happening? From there, they're starting to really dig into their information. So they understand how they're being measured. They understand how they're being paid. But now they're starting to get into the system and they're like, wait a minute, my results may not be what I expected. I thought this deal was going to hit me. I thought it would come in at this amount. And so hopefully behind the scenes, we as comm professionals are, number one, talking with people so that these things are not stewing in silence, whether that's using all the relationships you built with your sellers, or using your relationships with your managers so that those things are bubbling up, or your escalation process. Hopefully you've got a strong one in place. And then you are, looking at this data as well on your ends. And so being available and being responsive. And so, this talks about having office hours. We do quarterly open houses where we don't present, we just come and you can ask us questions. We've got a general inbox where you can send it to us, and there's several of us that can respond to it. And then make sure that communication is happening. As you're seeing these things, as reps are saying, hey, this thing doesn't look right, make sure you're addressing it, not just saying, oh, you're wrong, but helping them to understand why. And as there are problems, making sure that you're letting people know what you're doing to manage those problems to get them resolved. Because the goal is really they understand the plan and that their payout in that first cycle is accurate and they understand why. Because that will really help to build trust. From there, you're going to start to see patterns starting. Is this something that you're seeing? Hey, maybe you thought this new lever that you added, we added a lever this year. And we talked to them about, hey, this is what it would have been last year. This is what it is this year. But maybe it made sense at first, but as the year goes on, maybe there's questions about it. Or maybe there's a problem with it. And so making sure that you don't just get through that first payment cycle, but you're really keeping your ear to the ground. And this is where that escalation process is really helpful. Making sure you're using something that is clear, defined, and repeatable. One of the things that we have done is we, require managers to submit, and then we can do analysis on that to be able to see year over year, or even just like month over month, like how are escalations looking. We encourage the team to come and chat with us as well. You don't always have to submit a formal escalation. If something is looking weird, come and talk to us about it, because that also helps us identify not just the actual symptom, as it says, but really getting into like, why is this happening? Is there something below the surface that maybe we didn't expect with plan design? Or is there something with the system that we could build out differently to provide that additional visuals or, understanding? And then making sure that you just keep updating your materials and your communication. Because this is a living, breathing plan. As the year goes on, we want to make sure that this continues to evolve, and that we can meet those company results through this.
Totally. And some of these things, just adding, they really come in waves. So the stuff you saw in week 1 or 2, it doesn't mean it just dies down forever after. It just maybe some things naturally peak and other things, but you'll really be riding this wave of things. And just staying on top of it, expecting it, communicating. Again, a lot of it is just being ready to address those things that are visible, anticipate as much as you can.
And then week 4, and continuous, is that, we have to keep checking in on things. I know we roll out things to sellers, I check in with them and they're like, oh yeah, I absolutely get it. And then we are a quarterly payment shop. And so towards the end of the quarter, somehow they all have forgotten, 3 months later. So making sure that you are continuing those conversations, especially as you approach, a payment cycle. Are there things you need to remind them about? Are there things as you start a quarter? Hey, these are the things we want you to focus on throughout this quarter. Making sure that you are checking in with people. We all have those reps that we love to hear from, and we all have those reps when they call, they're like, oh man, but those actually are the people you probably need to follow up with, because they're going to give you some really healthy feedback, and are going to be willing to tell you what's going on. And so continue to, improve your system, improve your ability for the reps to understand and have that line of sight into how they're doing. Yeah. And this actually helps us to build a list of what we want to start, designing into next year as well. So, start that list of ideas as soon as you can, because there will always be new ideas floated from the team as well. So hopefully, go ahead.
You gotta, why just start early, and maybe next time you're in the cycle, you will not exactly remember what happened. Document along the way things that we should have done different. Just start incorporating that into the next time. And again, on the flywheel analogy, you'll just make you stronger and better for the next cycle.
Absolutely.
Very cool. So now you've done your rollout. You've understand it's a process. You're on the journey. And how do you know the trust is improving? What are some of those things that can be markers? And of course, if people are screaming at you in your office, that's probably a sign trust is not improving, and we did not put that on the list. But assuming things are die down and we're back in reasonable land, so you should see things like escalation volume come down, statement accuracy go up, which is related to the one above. Any resolution time for issues goes down as the team understands any edge cases, anything that needs intervention. By now, we've seen some of those things repeatedly, and we know how to deal with them. And there's a higher rep visibility and engagement. And of course, any pulse score surveys. Again, it's easy to do these days. We really recommend you do it. If there's a company-wide effort to collect feedback, make sure that this is part of it for the people that are in comp plans. And if not, you could make your own. And again, I would encourage you to work with the rest of the leadership team to make sure this is gonna make sense. But yeah, there's nothing like asking upfront what people think early and often and dealing with it. So that's the theoretical stuff. Many of these things you can get from standard systems. Angie, I don't know if you have anything to add or any personal anecdotes of how some of these have helped you in the past.
Yeah, for me, it's serving the team. We like to do kind of a post rollout, maybe 2 months later, and then towards the end of the year. And we ask the very blunt question, is this plan motivating? And it's interesting to see, where their scores are as well as the feedback. So don't be afraid to ask the blunt question, and, take the feedback. And because we're all trying to just, improve company results. So leadership will be open to hearing these things as well.
Yeah, way to run into the monster and ask the question up front. You're motivated. And Chai, I'll anticipate a question we might or might not get, but it's hard sometimes when there are things that we come out that are in the plan that we know probably shouldn't be, and we don't win all the battles with CROs and CFOs, and there might be moments where it's very tempting, the "I told you so" moment, where you really can't do that. So it's a good exercise of your leadership skills and just personal development to navigate those waters, because sometimes you will see things fail that you kind of probably knew they might fail, and it's just you have to pull on all all your abilities as an employee, as a leader, and as a coworker to navigate those waters. So I'll leave that out there. But yes, keep track of trust, make sure it's increasing, and there's plenty of tools out there that can help you do that. All right, we're just wrapping up now. Pretty much we'll have a little bit of time for questions. So just in summary, again, the success in January and really success throughout the year depends on one thing. It's trust at scale. Easy to say, hard to accomplish, but it's just built on gradually and a bunch of stuff. A lot of it is helped by having a proper way to manage this. So we obviously sell commission software. We're not shy about saying we're happy that ours does a lot of things really well, but just make sure you have accurate, explainable payouts, transparency into earnings, fast resolution, and yeah, ask a lot of your ICM system. Like you should really make sure that you're getting the support you need, and don't stay. Yeah, just don't think less than you should. Make sure you're getting something that's actually supporting your efforts. All right.
For me, the
yeah.
ICM can make just such a huge difference. It really helps to build trust by giving that visibility. And you can really scale it to all of the different levels. So as you're building out what you want to show, don't just always have the seller focus. Make sure you've got your managers and your executives and your sales incentive team as well, all in mind as you are, measuring things.
Perfect. All right, we have one more poll question here, which is really just if you need help right away, definitely click that. Otherwise, you know how to find us. We're happy to help. And we are on question and answer time. I know we've had some throughout the webinar, but if there's anything else you want clarity, I saw one about sharing slides. I believe we can share the recording and the slides with the attendees. But yeah, anything else that you want to bring up? I'm sure we did not exhaust the topic completely, but we did cover a lot, so maybe
And we're happy to take, additional questions and conversations through the uncapped system. If something's, sparks, an idea in another couple of days, or you run into a challenge, it's a great platform to be able to throw that out and get lots of different resources available.
Totally. Very good call out there, Angie. And yeah, that's the other thing. There's a bunch of a good community out there. Rely on your peers. It's always good to hear what others are going through. And yeah, we're not have to reinvent the wheel every time, but let's just lean in the community, help each other out. And here's a successful planned rollout for everyone. Okay, I think we're don't have any new questions, maybe. Oh, sorry, there's one coming in. Last year we rolled out new plans and by late January, mid-February, could field reps getting noticeably demotivated. The hard part was we never really got to the root cause. We couldn't tell if the plan itself wasn't landing clearly or if a rollout on communication created confusion. From your experience, how do you diagnose what's actually driving that shift? Yeah, big, good question. I'll start with something. I'll stall while Angie thinks, and then we'll come back to it. But one thing to be aware is that it might not be the plan, right? It could be there's many reasons why reps get demotivated. There's changing market conditions. There's competition. So I would start by really having a big, honest look at just the big picture. Like, what are all the things that might be having an impact before you necessarily drill down into the plan? Which, yeah, it could be a cost, and you should definitely look at it.
And for us, we just massively changed one of our plans. And I would say 90% of the team is super excited and 10% is really demotivated. But that was a little bit intentional as we are, able to focus more on what the reps are doing. And so, there are times when there's, unintended consequences or, things where you might cause a bit of disruption, and getting to the root cause is hard if it wasn't intended. Sometimes it is intentional, but if it isn't, just having those discussions for us is really where we have the success. And it's often not a group discussion. That's us picking up the phone, having the conversation one-on-one, to really understand. And often we see there are different pieces that affect sellers differently. So you can have a single team and there are different pieces that resonate differently with each person. Oh, I don't like this lever you put in. I don't like the upside, is decreased. Whatever the changes are, it's interesting to see what sticks with different people. And so, like, Jose said, it's, not always the plan. But if, you can try to rule that out with those conversations. And it's not easy because people are not always open, but yeah, do your best.
Yeah, one thing to explore is whether the plan is doing what you thought the plan was going to do. Like if you're designing a plan with certain things in mind, and that's something that's not typically shared with the broad audience, but what are you really trying to do? Like, how much are you caring about staying within that budget envelope? How much are you caring about promoting this new product line? Whatever it is that the plan was trying to do. But yeah, mid-February, just realize, is the plan actually doing what you thought it was going to do? And if not, that might be a sign that the plan designer, there's an issue with the plan itself. If it is doing what you wanted it to do and reps hate it, it could be then rollout issues, or it could just be that the plan is not as favorable and it might have been by design. But I think understanding what's causing this, you really want to stay on it, because otherwise you didn't learn from the experience and you might be doing it again next year. So yeah, it's a tough one, but just advice to not just stay on, try to really understand what happened. Candid conversation calls are going to be your friends here.
So I think there's one more question that's come in the last 2 minutes. Just waiting for it to show up.
Let's see. Okay, we've tried to be more transparent in a rollout, but we've also seen reps get overwhelmed when there's too much detail and then they tune out. In your experience, how do you strike that balance? What does enough transparency to build trust look like without flooding people with info? Okay, I'll give my 2 cents on this. It's never enough to do it once. Right? There's a lot of information. This is a repetition problem, right? You want to present the plan once, then you want to follow up with an email, then you have your open hours, then you put a post. Like, it's all about putting that information in front of people multiple times, and ideally through multiple channels. Some people are better learners through reading, others react well to emails, to meetings, to just multi-channel, and repetition would be my advice for that.
Yeah, I was reading, it takes 5 to 7 interactions with the data to really be able to act upon it. And so, we incorporate this even when you're onboarding new employees. And I think of, even plans that don't change as much, you really have to approach every year rollout like you're onboarding a new employee, kind of starting with the basics and making sure you get those fundamentals down. What are we measuring? How are we measuring it? Okay, then how does calculations work? Where can you see all of the reporting? How do you do your exceptions? And like Jose said, it is not a one and done. Making sure you have, videos, you've got, PowerPoints that they can read, that you are available. There's a place that's clear to ask questions. And then having office hours, digging into the different plans. And then figuring out where your team is having those challenges and continuing to hone in on where the challenges are for your specific people, but providing all of the different options. And if you'll find that people will take you up on them. And
more than others. The people that need more detail might just go to more office hours or read all the documents. Others might be fine with less detail, and that's okay too. some flexibility. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the questions. So it was good to get some at the end. I know, big topic, but again, communities out there, we're here to help. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you, Angie, for doing this with us. Amazing to hear your perspective and your real life on the moment you're doing it now kind of thing. Super valuable. And thank you all for participating.
Thanks, Al. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.